This webinar is entitled Open Teaching and Personal Learning Networks for Increased Student Engagement. My name is Maria Victoria Pineda and I will be your resource person for this session. Student learning is the mantra, or should we say the battle cry, of most higher education institutions. Most colleges and universities have experimented combining different formats of participation to ensure that the classroom is still the central setting of knowledge creation. Oftentimes, most classroom instructors or lecturers find students preoccupied on the use of technology even inside the classroom. Why? Because students find the classroom activities to be passive or all centered to the lecturer or the professor. Student engagement is not an easy task. It is not just a matter of listening, respecting their ideas, and having these ideas recognized regardless of how valid they may or may not be. So this webinar session provides an alternative teaching strategy to higher education institutions, how to engage students intelligently even while they cling to their technologies as their learning comfort zones. So what is open teaching? Open teaching is described as the facilitation of learning experiences that are open, transparent, collaborative, and social. This is based on the experiment of Alec Couros of the University of Regina in Canada. It also emphasizes the support to the critical consumption of knowledge through the shared development of personal learning networks. So what I will share with you is my replication and delivery of the open teaching method. Planning an open teaching course delivery. Open teaching is creating a structure of class dialogues that will become the rich source of active interactions. It also starts in the classroom but moves to different social channels, and there is the interplay of mindful responses or reactions to the topics or to the activities. For example, in your syllabus, you have to select already what are the important or critical topics. And then from those topics, you try to put or emphasize on a particular idea for the week. And then expand the idea and let your students expand this. It could become idea 2, idea 3, idea 4, idea 5. On some occasions, in some of your discussions, the idea could be challenged as well. And then proceed to the other topics, but make sure that all the topics will still be open. It means that you're giving time for your students to reflect on all the topics and then get back to the topic they prefer to focus on. Other instances that you can do is contemplate on the project for your semester. So what you're going to do is set the criteria and propose and let your students propose what they want to accomplish based on the criteria that you have set. Of course, initially it would give them a surprise because they are the ones proposing for the project. So it could generate different reactions. What is important is that you don't stop the exchanges of the discussions, the reflections, and the exchanges in one sitting. So here are the steps. Carefully plan an open teaching course delivery. Explore, create a rhythm structure of participation. As I mentioned earlier, it could start inside the classroom, but eventually from the classroom, it should be able to move into different formats or facets of discussions. Most social technologies or social networks support a rhythm structure. Choose the social technologies that work for you. Ideally, plan a dialogue or exchange of ideas that will be convenient for the students to respond to anytime and anywhere. Include the use of specific social tools and platforms as part of your dialogue exchanges. Employ as many social media channels of interaction as possible in a rhythm fashion for students to discuss and be participative. Use the social tools that you are comfortable with. In my situation, I have used WordPress, Tumblr, Twitter, and MindMeister. There are other tools available. There is Blogger, Facebook groups, Google groups, or even Google Apps. So you select what works for you. It is also very necessary to have good planning. The use of the social applications must not be an afterthought. The social application has its own strength and match it to your activity discussion. It is advisable to include it in your syllabus. Use a blog to extend your discussions of a topic instead of, for example, using slides. Echo your discussion in a blog. Even after discussing the specific topic, allow the students to reflect on it and give their voluntary opinions through the blog. You don't have to force it. You will find some students who are shy or timid in class could be very opinionated online. Here are examples to the links of my own blog in the past. That's where I put some of the important topics that I want my students to think about, and they could also do related readings and then freely give their opinion at any given time. So, for instance, in this page, if you notice, the topic on bringing teachers' digital literacy to a competency level, there were 15 responses, and you can see how generous the students in giving their ideas. You can use WordPress or Blogger or your own blog resource in your university learning management system. Both WordPress and Blogger are free cloud-based solutions for blogging or writing, and they are accessible anytime, anywhere. And I just also would like to emphasize the beauty of writing, because it's in writing that students become mindful of their thoughts, of what they have to write. I mean, when they write, they are able to express more with deep thinking. And that's the beauty of writing as well. And even for us as teachers, of course, it would help to improve also our writing. Next is use a microblog to be the venue for students' reflections. You don't need to make it complicated. If, for example, there are 14 weeks in a semester, ask the students to make 14 postings, one per week at the end of the chapter or end of the week topic discussion. The students must not be restricted on how much explanation or reflection they would want to share. Now, the question is, what is a microblog? You know, microblog is compared to the regular blog. You can just put one picture, one sentence, even one video if you want. And for young people, they're able to relate in this kind of expression, microblogging. For example, I have used Tumblr, which is very good for microblogging. So microblogging allows an individual to post snippets of ideas in text, pictures, or videos. And here is one example, my old blog or Tumblr site. And what I did, the requirement I gave to the students, I also did it myself. So if I require them 14 postings, I also have 14 postings. And then I also have the list of all their Tumblr sites, so it's easy for me to read and monitor as well. On the other hand, for my students, they can also read the Tumblr blog of their classmates. So here are two examples of the blogs that I mentioned to you, or microblog using Tumblr. So all of my students created their own. They designed it on their own. Some would have pictures, some don't have, but essentially they have 14 postings. They have their personal learning networks there as well as their other tasks. The third item is create a personal learning network. What is a personal learning network? It is a blueprint of a student's preferred learning connections and learning support tools. It is a good method to assess the learning actions of the student, whether she has a balanced social and academic interests, or gives priority to social connections rather than technology tools. It also shows the magnitude of interest the student may have. It could be very dynamic or simple. So at the same time, the student herself could do self-assessment. Personal learning networks are relative to time. So you can ask the students to draw their personal learning network at the onset of the semester and then make another one at the end to see if there are changes. So here are some examples. In the first example that we have, it's simple PLN. But here in the second example, if we try to analyze it, at a given time, the student has several interests. There's the hobbies and inclinations on visual design and music. The person is also very interested on entertainment and online stores. For communication, the person is using a lot of messaging systems. And then in terms of general information, the person is very much into timely events or news, as well as editorial opinion. As far as academics and career would be concerned, there is the topic on computer science, as well as, of course, there is the social connections, Facebook groups, Dropbox folders, the school website, and then of course the person is also using ebooks, PDF, code sources, etc. So if you notice here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major interests at a given time. This is dynamic. In the next example, I think this is more dynamic. So if you notice, we have 2, 4, 6, 8 interests at the same time. There is travel interests, movies, books, social network connections. In the social network connections, if she is very much interested on friends and family in Facebook, Twitter followers, high school friends, college friends, and church mates. In terms of books, of course, she has Nicholas Sparks and recommendations from friends and family who are also book lovers. Movies, she relies on the website or the popular site Rotten Tomatoes for recommendations, and also from families. So it's a mixture of the internet and her family most of the time. And then of course, when it comes to travel interests, there's travel blogs, travel magazines, blogs of persons who love to travel. And then interest in information technology. There are the professors who are the social connections of the person. And then there's also blogs of the people in the IT field, professionals that she has met in her OJT or on-the-job training. And then there's also her own technology or instructional system technology connections. People from Red Cross, Facebook group, Yahoo groups, and then other Twitter followers. In terms of music and blogging, these are also additional to her interests. Okay, so she has so many interests at a given time. And if you could see, she relies heavily also on her family, other people. She has interactions as well as many of the social sites. Not much of the tools, unlike the other ones. There are many tools that can be used to draw a personal learning network or the mind map of interests and priorities. There is MindMeister, Gleafy, Mindomo, or you can simply use a paper and a pencil. It's okay. So here is a simple set of simple steps how to draw your personal learning network. Next, permit students to define and propose their own projects. Instead of dictating what projects they have to do, make the projects open and negotiated. Establish a set of criteria that adheres to your course design. Based on that, let your students in pairs or groups to develop their ideas or select the type of project more suitable for them. Well, in my class before, what we had is a research and project assignment that would support distance learning or a mobile, cost-effective, shareable learning content and application project. Next, you can also implement a live, real-time online discussion. The discussion must be focused on a specific topic. I would recommend, while you can also have the option for asynchronous discussion, it's also good to have a real-time, live discussion. For instance, I use Twitter for a whole Saturday real-time conversations online. So how can they find our discussions? I use unique hashtags. For example, hashtag July23conversations. So any of my student who would reply to a question or would like to give a reaction simply has to affix the said hashtag July23conversations. If you notice in the example on the screen, I'm using hashtag CRELMGT or Customer Relationship Management. That's the acronym for our course. And here, the first line is our topic tonight is focused on building customer relationships. But the emphasis would be, how do you cook a good chemistry with your customer? So on some of the discussions, if you notice, like the second item, there were 16 responses. Okay? And then in the second example, does building chemistry always equate to face-to-face interaction? Not necessarily. Please think and share your thoughts. So there are 12 reactions. So if you notice on the screen, there were several different kinds of responses. And some of them are very informal, but at the same time, this is instantaneous. I don't give the questions right away. I slowly build the topic and then slowly they answer. They also reply or react to some of the answers of their classmates. Well, most students find this as a unique type of connection and interaction experience. Non-member of the class can also join if they happen to use the same hashtag. But I think here in Vietnam, the Twitter is not very popular. So you can actually choose another modality or another platform for your own need. So, for example, live chat in Google Groups or YouTube, you can actually do that. So there are many tools available right now. So here's another example of our conversations. And if you notice on the right column, if you want to track the discussion in Twitter, the one on top is the latest. Okay, so for example here, below the right column. Shall we wrap up? Beautiful peeps, it means beautiful people. Okay, never forget technology that empowers CRM to create good chemistry with customers. Okay, so I made several sentences or statements, and then finally I ended up good night and see you in the game tomorrow. I got 8 replies, and then the last one, if you notice, coming from Yvette saying, thanks, Miss. It's a nice discussion. So obviously, they also enjoyed the discussion. So, are you open to try it out? Okay, don't be overwhelmed with the social tools. Choose the topics that you think will give more opportunities for your students to cultivate cognitive thinking, draw more critical questioning and responses, and encourage the practice of reflection. Now, here are some of the take-home ideas. Planning opportunities for interactions, especially intelligent interactions, must be a conscious effort, and there are many technologies that could support this intention. Open teaching strategy can produce healthy exchange of ideas and opinions that would not regularly happen inside a classroom. Open teaching in a rhizome structure means designing an interplay of activities that empower student agency and allowing them to articulate their own thoughts, even using the digital media they are comfortable to handle. The use of social technologies pretty much supports the self-expression of the students we have, and they can post using different kinds of digital media, which is actually very, very open. We also learned that a personal learning network provides a way for a student to discover her own interests, what she is doing about her own interests, how passionate she is on what she is doing. And the personal learning network becomes a springboard on how much she wants to become excellent. Open teaching is a flexible strategy that leads to active learning. Student engagement in this situation would become a shared cooperation between the teacher and the student. Student expression is voluntary and organic, and the students feel very comfortable because they face the social tools and applications they also use. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Please leave a happy face icon in the chat box if you like this webinar. Feel free to give your questions and reactions too. Have a great day.